How's it going, everybody? My name is Cam White, and welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope. What the fuck is going on in the universe for October 19th through October 25th of 2020? We're getting closer and closer to the end of the year and the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and time just keeps flying, and it's crazy, but thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. I'm super excited we could talk today. Two quick announcements. I have a new video coming up tomorrow about Saturn and Aquarius and what it's going to mean for all of your guys' zodiac signs. I kind of did something different, and like the way I kind of made the video was a little bit different. So I'm open to hearing some feedback about how you guys like it, and I might do more videos like that. If not, I might do a little bit more changes. However, new video coming out tomorrow. Make sure you guys check it out. Talking all about Saturn and Aquarius and what it's going to mean and how it's going to affect your sign. Next thing, also, I'm actually writing out all of the 2021 year ahead horoscopes. Which, like, yeah, we're already to the point where we're starting to get 2021 year ahead horoscopes out. So I'm writing those right now. I just want to make the announcement that I'm working on those, and those will be out eventually. So. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this week's horoscope. First thing that we've got going on is on Monday, we're having that Mercury-Uranus opposition, part 2. And, you know, with Monday, the thing is with Monday too, the moon's going to be in Sagittarius during this time. And I wanted to talk about the moon's aspects, but it doesn't make the square to Venus and the trine to Mars until Tuesday. So the moon's just kind of chilling in Sagittarius, which can feel very aloof. You can kind of feel a little bit checked out. You know, I think the moon in Sag is always a great time to have fun if you're trying to have more fun in your schedule or, you know, in your day-to-day stuff. But the moon in Sag I think is just a good time to really reflect and ponder on a lot of stuff. You know, where do you want to go? What is your vision? That kind of stuff. However, with the Mercury-Uranus opposition happening on Monday, there's this. And I said the word reflect on something specifically because with Mercury now retrograde, it's coming back over its second opposition with Uranus. And so my question for you is, what happened the first time Mercury went opposite Uranus? Was there some type of unexpected thing that came up from underneath the surface that you didn't realize? Sometimes, you know, with Scorpio, it could just be an emotion that came up that you didn't realize that you felt. With Mercury, this can just be, you know, literally like an emotion that you had that you thought about that you're like, wow, I didn't realize I felt this way. With Mercury opposite Uranus being retrograde now, also too, maybe the seeds for something were put down when Mercury first went opposite Uranus, and now those seeds are starting to grow out. Now you're starting to see where the weeds are coming up, essentially. On Monday, you know, I don't want to say expect the unexpected. I just feel like, you know, some random thing's going to come up, and because you guys are all into astrology, you're going to go, oh, I totally saw that one coming because it's Mercury opposite Uranus. But I'd also look at it as, you know, it's kind of like I made an analogy a couple weeks ago about how maybe with Mercury opposite Uranus, it's like reaching down underground or digging underground, and you can like cut a pipe. Well, sometimes before you let go, like let's say you're reaching down to grab something and you're about to pull it up. Well, instead of letting go of it and having all those problems, you can keep holding on and be like, wait, before I let go and mess everything up, let me hold on and see if I can fix it. Maybe Mercury opposite Uranus is a good time to go like, okay, you know, how can I rethink or review how I went about this? How can I review the plot that I just dug or the hole that I just dug? Maybe that wasn't the best spot to dig a hole. Maybe I should dig a hole somewhere else. I think also a good time with Mercury just retrograde in Scorpio is, you know, you're going to uncover stuff. It's Mercury retrograde. You know, we're reviewing, we're reflecting. It's Scorpio. We're literally scraping stuff from like inside of the cave that we don't really this part of the cave doesn't really get that much light. And as it's opposite Uranus, you know, we're going to find something. We're going to find something we didn't really expect, and that may not necessarily be. You know, you may be, you know, if you're exploring a cave, sure, you might find buried treasure, but you also might just find a skull, which is also cool, but also unexpected. And I just think on Monday, you know, I think there's a level of actual, like, you know, I think if with the Mercury opposite Uranus, I think you'll see it more bigger in the news, but I think in your own personal life, if you don't look for it, you may not see it, but also unexpected events, something coming up that's going to require you to process it, to think about it. You guys know the fucking drill. We move to Tuesday. And that's when the moon, now still in Sagittarius, makes that square to Venus and trines Mars. Now, this is where I think things kind of pick up. And again, like I didn't even actually talk about how this week is going to be. This week is very, in my opinion, pretty calm for the most part. Next week's pretty crazy in my opinion. But this week, like things get clear. We have that Mercury-Uranus opposition, and we actually end this week with the Mercury Cazimi. So I think with this week, there's a lot of things that become aware, or you become aware of a lot of things. This kind of gives us a week to really sit with our emotions, to kind of sit with what we're thinking about, with how we feel. Like there's not a whole lot of going on this week. So it's not like, it's kind of like I don't want to say halftime in a game, but in like sports, like they have those moments where it's like, you don't have to be so focused on the game. You could take a quick break, go get a snack, do whatever. I feel like that's one of those weeks this week. That's why in my stupid fucking thumbnail, I made that stupid face where I'm like, oh, I don't know. Anyway, whoops, there we go. So anyway, moon squares Venus, trines Mars. The way I really look at this is with the moon in Sag squaring Venus and Virgo. This is very much like the moon in Sag. It's like, come on, Venus, let's go have fun. Let's go party. Let's do this. And Venus and Virgo is like, well, I had a weird day today and I don't have anything to wear and blah, 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 blah. I'm not having any fun. And so the moon squaring Venus is just going to feel like there's this, tension between like the moon and Sag wanting to go and explore and Venus and Virgo wanting things to be perfect in order to have fun. And I think this is a good breakthrough opportunity to try to find ways to have fun when they're not perfect. How can you still enjoy things even if they're not exactly the way that you want them to be? And another way to look at this too is with the moon on the south node at this point as it's squaring, which, I didn't really talk about this. Actually, I'm really not going to bring it up because I don't think it's super important. Yes, Venus is at the bending of the nodes at this time. I don't think it's the most important deal at the moment. I will say, though, with the moon being on the south node squaring Venus while the Venus is squaring the nodes, that this is a good time to do something different. This is a good time to either change something or start going in like a new direction. And why I said with Venus and Virgo, it's like, you could be kind of over picky and not really have fun when you're too fucking concerned about how the specifics are going to look. And with the moon and Sag, it's like, it's, if you've ever done any acting or if you're a stage musician or anything like that, you understand it's like if you mess up, you don't stop. You keep going because most of the time your audience or whoever's perceiving you doesn't even notice that you messed up. And you don't want to stop everything just because of one little mistake. I feel like the moon and Sag on that south node squaring Venus, it's like, yeah, you will make mistakes. Not everything's going to be perfect, but like you got to roll with it. You kind of just have to go with it. Enjoy what you can out of it. Like it's all about, in times like this, it's all about having fun. We can get really invested in the game. We can get very serious about everything, but I think it's also important to have fun. And I think with the moon squaring Venus, it'll be easy to think about that. And as the moon trines Mars, I think this is also giving us the Mars is antsy at this point, and I think the moon trining Mars is like, let's take some action. Let's get something done. Let's go somewhere. Let's do this. Let's do that. There's a lot of, the moon and Sag wants to go and explore, and Mars and Aries hasn't done a whole lot. Mars and Aries has been retrograde, squaring Saturn and Jupiter. So it can really use some fresh air. It could use some of that Sagittarian, funness and liveliness to it. So I think on Tuesday, it's going to be easy to beat yourself up or stay stagnant, but it's also going to be just as easy to get out of that situation for yourself. We go into Wednesday, and that's when the moon ingresses into Capricorn, makes a trine to Uranus, and then we also have the Venus trine Pluto. Now, this is where the week turns kind of depressing. This isn't a bad week. Like, trust me, there's so much shit that happened last week, and there's so much shit happening next week. This week is, again, a calm week. I'm going to reiterate that. I just think I don't think I have to explain to you guys why I think the moon going into Capricorn, conjoining Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, is and squaring Mars is not going to be fun. But I think as it starts on Wednesday and we have the moon actually go straight into Capricorn, this is just where things take more of a serious note. What am I planning? What am I structuring? I think it was West Arderer. I can't ever say that their last name right, but for those who know West, West. They were like, Moon and Capricorn's like, can I schedule those emotions for later? And I feel like that's very, Moon and Capricorn. Like, I don't have time to feel. I have work to do. I don't have, I got other shit to do. With the moon trining Uranus, I think this will be beneficial for, if you are getting some work done and if you are trying to just get through your work, there's some type of innovation or discovery for you to that will help you in your work and what you're trying to do. But also Venus trines Pluto on this day, which, Venus trine Pluto, like, I just wrote it down just so you guys were aware and you guys can think of it, because I don't know what to say with it. Like, okay, yeah, sure. Venus, the planet of love, value, connection, is in Virgo and fall. She's trining Pluto. So maybe Venus is on a power trip. Maybe Venus is getting a lot of influence from Pluto. I would just, I would take that one with a grain of salt. However, the one thing I do want to mention with Venus being where she's at, she's coming up to the trine with Saturn, and that does happen this week. But, Venus just got done trining Jupiter. Venus just got done, trining Pluto, which didn't the Venus Jupiter trine start on Monday? Did I not talk about that? It does. It is on Monday. I didn't even fucking talk about that. It's super early Monday morning, and I think it's actually more of Sunday night. The Venus Jupiter trine. I'm so surprised I didn't even fucking mention that, because let me know in the comments if I talked about that last week, because I don't remember talking about that last week. Anyway, what I'll mention for the Venus Jupiter trine is, it's the two. I just had a conversation with, I just forgot who I had a conversation. I think it was Scarlett Benson. We were talking about how Venus and Jupiter, with Venus ruling Taurus and Libra and Jupiter ruling Pisces and Sagittarius, those signs are like in aversion with each other usually. Like they don't really make too many aspects. Sure, Taurus and Pisces sextile, and so does Libra and Sag. But what I thought was interesting was that both benefics are in their fall and they trine each other. So even in times of doubt, there's still some harmony between the benefics, and I think that's special. I think Venus trining, Venus in Virgo trining Jupiter and Capricorn is like, hey man, you got to take the good when you got it. Venus and Virgo, it's like, sure, not everything's perfect. Jupiter and Capricorn, sure, you don't have everything you want, but this works. This is nice. I think it's a good day, I hate that I have to say this sometimes, but like, this is a good day to check into your gratitude. I used to talk a lot more about gratitude on my YouTube, and a lot of you used to like argue with me on it. Like, I'm not grateful for anything. And it's like, well, no wonder why you hate your life. Venus in fall and Jupiter in fall, this is a great time to express gratitude, to practice gratitude. And again, that only just reiterates what I talked about with the moon and Sag. But anyway, Venus trines Pluto on Wednesday, and again, that's not the biggest deal, but I wanted to mention that Venus is just trining the whole pile up. Venus is, connecting, right? Venus is saying these specific tasks that you're doing, these specific ways, this little tinkering that you're doing is actually formulating something constructive, something helpful. It's Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter and Earth signs in Capricorn, all moving direct. We're building something serious. We're gaining momentum here. You know what I mean? Yes, Mars is retrograde still. That's besides the point. But Venus trining Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto, there's a lot that we're building up, and it's working really well. So then we get into Thursday, and that's when the moon will conjoin Jupiter. It will conjoin Pluto. It will then conjoin Saturn as it trines Venus and squares Mars. So that is a mouthful. But as we get into Thursday is going to be the most interesting day. I think on a good note, it's moon trine Venus conjoin Jupiter. So, we're really getting shit done. Things are really the best way to look at it is things are being created. Things are being cemented. This is earth signs. This is focusing on the material. What are we building? What are we? I don't even know what else to say besides what are we building? What are we creating? What are we cementing? What are we planning for? What are we structuring? And it's the moon trine Venus. We're connecting things. Things are harmoniously working. As the moon's conjoin Jupiter, we're expanding what we can do. We're putting as much as we can into it. Like it's kind of like almost workaholic syndrome. But the bad news is the moon right before, well, it's funny how it all works out. The moon squares Mars before it trines Venus and conjoins Jupiter. So the moon squaring Mars, it's kind of like, okay, if you're stuck here, if you can't move anywhere, if you can't do anything, what can you do in the meantime? If you have a certain project, like, I've got a couple other videos that I want to be working on, but I can't yet. So instead of me just going, oh, I'm not going to do anything until then, like I have other things that I can work on until that can be done. And as the moon squares Mars, on Thursday, you're going to feel like you hit a roadblock and you're going to feel stopped. But in that moment where you're stopped, what can you get done in the meantime? So you're not just wasting your time, not just wasting this. The one, when I was talking to Scarlett about this, I was like, man, I'll take Venus trine Jupiter, both in their signs of fall. Man, I'll take it. Fuck it. Give me something fucking good out of this year. And as the moon squares Mars, fuck it. You're stopped here. You're stuck. What are you going to do? Venus trine Jupiter, Venus trine Saturn, moon is trining Venus, moon's conjoining Jupiter. Do something with this time. Use this for something. I'm sure I'd be surprised if a lot of you weren't, but this is a good time to do it. The other thing we've got going on, I didn't even write this down. I didn't even put this on the little thing right here. Notice how this is blank. I meant to also say that the sun goes into Scorpio later on the 22nd. As the sun shifts from, so this is the one thing if you've been watching my horoscopes for a while, I think I've talked about this a few times, but in tropical astrology, a lot of the signs, meanings, and significations comes from the seasonal effects of here on Earth. And when you have the sun going into Libra and it goes into its fall, literally fall begins. The sun, the days get shorter and the night gets longer. The sun is literally dissipating at this point. What I also like about the Libra season is when the sun goes into fall and the leaves are changing, right? It's a Libra, right? It's Venus ruled. Everything's beautiful. There's all of these colors, and everyone dresses better in the winter. But when the sun goes into Scorpio, everything starts to die. Well, and this is a Northern Hemisphere conversation, Northern Hemisphere gang shit. But as the sun goes into Scorpio, and now all the leaves are falling. When you look at a plant, all of the leaves will fall, and basically a plant will store its energy in its roots and, in its stock. Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah, in its roots and its stock. And it'll let go of all of its leaves. It'll let go of all of its flowers. And I see a lot of Scorpios, like not Scorpio people, but like the idea of the sun going to Scorpio, right? What do we need to hold on to? We don't need to hold on to the leaves anymore. It's winter time. You know what I mean? Things are starting to die. Things are starting to dissipate. We don't have as much energy. We don't have as much light to give us. So what's worth holding on to? And as the sun goes into Scorpio, I want you guys to both think about, what's worth holding on to? What's worth, what do you need to hold on to get through the winter? But also, what are you holding on to too tightly? Are you holding on to your leaves and your flowers too tightly? Because if you're a plant and you try to give energy to those flowers and those leaves on your body for the winter, like you don't have enough photosynthesis going on to do that. Like, so the plant has to let the leaves and the flowers die. And that's okay, because then it will store its energy. It will gain a lot of energy throughout the winter. And then when springtime comes, it can grow everything again. And it'll grow it even more because it has more energy to do that. And I think that's just a really important distinction as the sun goes into Scorpio. Like, now that we're going through that change, ask yourself what's worth holding on to and what's worth letting go of. That's one of the bigger themes that you're going to see, or at least I want you to see. Anyway. We move into Friday. That's when the moon moves into Aquarius and immediately makes a square to Mercury, which, this sounds frustrating in my opinion. Sun's in Scorpio now. The moon will first conjoin Saturn. And as the moon conjoins Saturn, there's this cementing, there's this, like kind of a wall in the way. The moon conjoining Saturn is kind of like, there's not a good time for everything, really. The moon conjoining Saturn is like sometimes we could wait for things rather than having to do it right now. Sometimes I don't want to say it's better late than never. Sometimes, the right opportunity's got to strike. And with the moon conjoining Saturn, it's, maybe we could put a pause on things. Maybe we can stop things for a second. But as the moon goes into Aquarius, there's a little bit more freedom here. It's not as rigid. It's not as cold. It's very, it's open, right? The moon being our emotions and what we're reflecting on, what we're pondering on. We're trying to see things through a different way, a more creative lens, but that's still, structured and disciplined. But as the moon squares Mercury, I love fixed signs, because fixed signs are just, I love the tension. It's like everything stays the same and no one changes anything. So when you get those squares, it's like, nothing's going to change. It's just the tension is what's fun about it. And as Mercury's in Scorpio in retrograde, again, Mercury's like that scope. Like, it's really fixated on what it's looking at. It's not paying attention to anything else. And as the moon's in Aquarius being like, hey, maybe instead of, being so focused and targeted, how about we expand our scope? Let's look at a bird's eye view of this perspective. And Scorpio's not going to really take that all that well, or Mercury's not really going to take that all that well. And so there's going to be some tension with, maybe you have a conversation with someone and they, show you a different perspective of your situation. And you kind of get grumpy about it because you're like, fuck, I don't want to see that perspective. I want to see things my way. And so that's just important to, it's going to be easy to have your ego kind of get in the way. And, I'm the kind of person where it's like, your ego's there for a reason. You know what I mean? Like our bodies our brains, we don't just have shit for no reason. You know what I mean? As the moon squares Mercury, you're going to get in your own way. Try to suck up your ego and look at things differently, but that's not to say that, it's Mercury still going to be in Scorpio. You're still going to see things your own way in the way that you want to see it. And that's the whole point of this Mercury retrograde. But you should be reviewing and reflecting why you're choosing this perspective, why you're choosing this vision, why you're seeing things this way. Why are you choosing to see things that way? Ask yourself that question as we get into Friday. Then as we get into this weekend, that's actually a short horoscope. We're only in 20 minutes so far. Wow. Okay. Then as we get into this weekend, we have Venus making that trine to Saturn. And during that time, we're going to have the moon sextile Mars. As Venus trine Saturn, I think this is going to be one of the most beneficial aspects this week. Venus and Virgo, the one thing about Venus and Virgo, yes, she's in her fall. But, when you're picky, I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. It's like, sometimes some people are like, oh, don't worry about that. Just get the basics done and you'll be fine. And then you're the type of person that's like, no. I care about what I'm doing. I'm going to put in the specific details. I'm going to work harder to, make things the way that I want. That reward and that payoff is extremely, it's just rewarding. And I think as Venus is in Virgo, making that trine to Saturn, applying yourself and doing things the specific way that you wanted to and remaining disciplined and remaining serious. Saturn is helping Venus here. Venus and Virgo's like, thank you. I know if I just stuck to the plan and I would eventually get all the details I wanted. So I think there's some beneficial rewards as we get to Saturday. With Venus being about connection and value, she's in Virgo. So, not everything's going to be perfect, but it's going to work. And that's Venus trining Saturn. And just make sure, you guys should fucking know where Venus is at in your chart. Is Venus in your 11th house, trining, Saturn in your 7th? Are you connecting more with your friends and establishing better relationships with people? Is Venus in your 4th house, trining Saturn in your 8th house? Yeah. Saturn what is that? Yeah. Saturn in your 8th house, right? Because Virgo is in the 4th. So that would make Gemini rising. Yeah. So it's like Venus is in your 4th. It's like, are you, getting by with things in your Venus in your 4th house is like buying nice stuff for your house, right? It's trining Saturn in your 8th. Are you doing it affordably? Are you getting all the things that you want for your house within your budget is a good way to look at it. Anyway, the moon also sextiles Mars on Saturday. So, we're going to be kind of amped up, I think, as the moon's in Aquarius and we have some fresh air that we're kind of breathing after the 3 days of the moon in stuffy Capricorn. Because Capricorn does not have a lot of room and it's hosting Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto and the moon. So the moon's going to just have to squeeze by in Capricorn. But moon in Aquarius, there's some fresh air. There's some room to breathe. It's sextiling Mars. What are we active for? What is this fresh air doing? It's kind of like I remember being a kid and we would do, what is it called in California? I don't know if they do this in other states, but in California, they have the STAR test, or at least that's what it was called when I was a kid. And it was like the end of the school year where you did all the stupid testing. And I swear to God, it was like once all that was done, I fucking would kick down the door and would just run because I just needed to get outside. That's like the moon sextiling Mars in this point. It's like, you might be going more faster or wanting to do things more aggressively because there's more space to do that. And I think that's good. I think with the moon sextiling Mars, give yourself space. Give yourself room to do things, Don't just don't paint yourself into a corner, essentially. And then we get into Sunday, and that's when we have the Mercury Cazimi right as the moon moves into Pisces and immediately makes that trine to Mercury in the sun, which Sunday, what's cool about this Mercury retrograde, and this is what I do like about the Mercury retrogrades we've had in Scorpio, is when that Cazimi happens and, Mercury goes into the heart of the sun and things get purified, things get things get so clear. And, I think the whole phoenix rising out of the ashes mythology for Scorpio is, humorous. I think it's worth, kind of bullying at some points too, because I just think all Scorpio stereotypes are funny. But with, Mercury going Cazimi, I think this is kind of like a phoenix rising out of the ashes type of thing. But also one way to look at it too is things become abundantly clear. Things become black and white clear. This is that moment where you get that shot. You finally see the shot that you were looking for. And the cool thing about this is the moon moves straight into Pisces and makes the trine to Mercury as we get into Sunday. So it's like the moon's in Aquarius at this point, right? To go back to my analogy last week, I talked about how, if you're, so focused on this one thing and someone's like, hey, why don't you try a different position? This Mercury Cazimi is like, you get in that position and it's the exact way you saw things, the exact way you wanted it to be. As the moon moves into Pisces, there's this, what I like about Pisces too is that it's unplanned. It's very improv. It's especially, I know a lot of you guys are musicians, when you write with other musicians, I always found it really weird writing with other musicians. I like jamming with other musicians. Like, let's just fucking play and just see what happens. And I think that magic of literally let's just see what happens, let's just be in the moment, is very Pisces, right? And as the moon goes into Pisces, there's this, intuitive connection with what is right and what's going to work and what's not going to work. And as that moon goes into Pisces, trines Mercury, there's this intuitive connection. There's this heart, mind, soul, body connection of when the right timing is, how you see things, and how everything works. And so, to kind of take a step back, I think a good way to look at this is through a macrocosmic perspective is things become abundantly clear as we get to Sunday, and things become intuitively clear, which intuitively clear is almost, it almost goes against each other, right? Intuitive is very much this is the way I feel, this is what's connected, even though I don't see that. Versus, being clear, you're supposed to see it. It's supposed to be tangible. And I think it'll be really easy to listen to your intuition on Sunday. And I think it'll be really easy for your emotions to guide you. And I think that level of clarity, which again, and this is Scorpio stuff, when you are in the midst of the battle, you realize, wow, I'm very clear about how real all of this is. And I think that's a big thing with the Scorpio stuff. There's a really big realization of how real all of this stuff is, how real everything you're going through is. There's this, it's, if you guys have ever done an extreme sport, I remember when I went whitewater rafting, and of course, the one time me and my family went whitewater rafting, we flipped and literally all of us almost died. And it was I remember in that moment, I was so wow, this is literally fucking real. Here we are, this is real motherfucking life. And just shit became fucking clear. And I know I'm cussing a lot, because some of you guys fucking comment on how much I cuss. Get over it. But anyway, I think just things become very abundantly clear, and almost in a scary way, It's kind of when, if you're doing something serious if you're doing some serious shit and you realize it's that moment you realize oh, this is serious, and this is happening, it's going down. That's kind of this Mercury Cazimi. And I think, again, you're going to see it play out really big in the news. But I also think on a personal level, you can't really deny certain truths. You can't deny rock bottom or ground zero, I should say. And I think that's what this Mercury Cazimi is really going to show us intuitively. What is that ground zero? What is that rock bottom? What are we illuminating in this area? And I think as we move forward from that, because right after this Cazimi, literally, next week on Wednesday, we have Mercury going back into Libra. The same day Venus enters Libra. So after this realization, there's a lot of changes that occur. I mean, Venus goes into Libra, Mercury goes back into Libra. A lot of things are going to start picking up after that. And so that's kind of what I basically have for you guys. I think this week starts off kind of weird and it ends with a lot of clarity, which I think we all need right now. And next week, so let me go ahead and tell you what's going on next week. Next week, we have Mercury going into Libra, Venus going into Libra. We have we have Mercury squaring Saturn. So I think the Mercury squaring Saturn is actually going to kind of suck. But we also have the almighty full moon in Taurus that is exactly conjoining Uranus on Halloween next week too. So next week has a lot of surprises. Next week has a lot of change happening. And so this week, just get clear about stuff. Be with yourself, be with your emotions, and be with, how you feel this week. Do your best to find that clarity. And like I said before, new videos coming out tomorrow. Make sure you guys check it out. Have my notifications on. If you have my notifications on, I don't even talk about that because I just think I don't have any notifications on for the people I follow on YouTube. I always thought it was weird. So if you have my notifications on, that is so cool. Thank you. But if you don't, you should probably turn it on to make sure you check that video. 2021 horoscopes are coming out soon. And I think that's all the updates I have for you guys. So with that being said, thank you guys again so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll be seeing you next week.